clock. All right, so Spencer Sanders has found a team, and a team has found him. Very interesting after the story yesterday with Walker Howard from LSU going to Ole Miss, and now the veteran from Oklahoma State, Spencer Sanders, is now going to be in that offense with Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, the first person I actually thought of in this was not Spencer Sanders. It was Jackson Dart, and what the last couple days must have been like for him and the message that Lane Kiffin sent. And, I don't know if he didn't. I don't know how informed guys are when somebody's going to transfer at your position, especially if you're the quarterback and there's only one of you that on the field at any time, about competition and all that. But bringing in Spencer Sanders and Walker Howard clearly shows that there's a different long-term quarterback plan, or at least a plan to push Jackson Dart at Ole Miss, and that it's pretty big. I think Spencer Sanders in that offense with Lane Kiffin and those running backs could be pretty outstanding.
Push him out the door.
Yeah.
I think where he's pushing him, Jackson Dart was the guy last year, but I think Lane Kiffin made a pretty big statement to everybody in going and picking up 2 quarterbacks over the last 2 days. And, it's kind of like when you see just a number of guys, we typically would just think like a team would need one guy, and that would be it. And like Baylor's now gotten 2, but there's a differing degree to those 2 guys. And I guess there sort of is here as well, but where does Jackson Dart fit in is the question now, because Spencer Sanders has 1 year left to go and play, and I wouldn't imagine that he's going to go somewhere where he doesn't feel pretty strongly about his chances to play. And then Walker Howard's got multiple years of eligibility, so you can kind of sit back and let him, learn and do whatever and be the backup. But, yeah, where does Jackson Dart fit into that? I don't know exactly. But, it was great to just see, without vision to get into the portal and leave Oklahoma State and maybe just, test the waters. So there's talk that he had, gone and said, no, you know what, I think I want to come back, and that Gundy wasn't very receptive to that. And so then you're left wondering, okay, well, like this domino drops and this domino drops and this domino drops, and not hearing much about Spencer Sanders. And you heard a little bit about, okay, some interest in Ole Miss, and that is, in fact, where he ends up. So it's a very interesting pickup for the Rebs and for Lane Kiffin, and certainly to get Walker Howard and then to get Spencer Sanders, that's a big statement on your quarterback room, and leaves some good battles to come and some questions about how that room's going to shake out here over the next few months.
All right, so the chat room is going. The text line's open, 254-339-1122. Arkansas, it didn't take time. It didn't take much time. Kendall Briles, of course, TCU, and they have their new offensive coordinator.
Dan Enos, he was at Maryland, and if you saw the Maryland offense this year, they were pretty prolific with baby Tagovailoa, their little brother, and Tailua Tagovailoa. And so, yeah, he was going to be a hot name, and Mike Loxley's done a great job there at Maryland, so I'm not surprised that people are looking at his assistants right now and going to get him. But it did not take long. Of course, when you kind of have to have names in the barrel if this happens. You can't, the days are mostly gone of where you can be an old school head coach and have the same coordinators for 25 years. And that's just not going to, the Bear Bryant, Bobby Bowden, Grant Taft, these guys have been with me since the beginning. This is the offensive coordinator. This is the defensive coordinator. They're kind of over. And if you expect that, then you're going to get caught flat-footed. So not surprised that Sam Pittman had one in the barrel. The one person I'm really curious about, because I thought he was the one who was going to get the TCU job, because it never even entered my mind about Kendall Briles ever, willfully setting foot on campus at TCU, but is Seth Luttrell. I just think that there's a pretty good offensive mind sitting out there, especially if you're a coach who wants to run that system, which, more than 50% of the schools seem to be now. So I wonder if he takes a year off, what winds up happening with him. But he's a pretty good coach you could have on your staff and is sitting out there. I thought he might have been a good fit for Arkansas, but clearly they're already thinking about Dan Enos.
Yeah, I mean, Enos has been there before. Was there just a few years back and serving as an assistant, so there's some familiarity. Sam Pittman was the O-line coach at that time, so again, they've crossed paths. They've been at Fayetteville together, and there's some knowledge there. And then went off to Maryland, here recently, and they did. I mean, if you watch Maryland, if there was a highlight to that team, it was what they did on offense. And as you mentioned, the Tagovailoa family, having an impact there, but. Interesting move for them. I mean, they did move quickly. I think that's definitely notable because the Kindle thing was kind of out there for a few days. So, I mean, it's not like that dropped yesterday and then they turned right around and like, hey, here's Dan Enos. But, that Kindle rumor was out there over the weekend. And so they had 4 or 5 days at minimum, I would think, to really kick the tires. And maybe they were kicking the tires when the Mississippi State stuff, Kendall was allegedly flirting there. And then, the fact that he just seemed to be keeping his options open, I wonder if Sam Pittman didn't have like a little, hey, just be monitoring this, or, just be available if I need to call you here in the next couple of weeks. I think they probably had an idea of what might have been going on there. So, yeah, I mean, KJ Jefferson, obviously, we saw Kendall's tweet like a week or two ago, whenever that was, talking about, basically running it back with KJ Jefferson. That was the thought at the time. Obviously, he's now in Fort Worth, and so Dan Enos inherits an offense with a pretty solid quarterback, and I'm curious to see what he does. But yeah, the Razorbacks move relatively quickly here.
Baylor, remember, they were down to just Blake Shapen at their returning quarterback as far as in the quarterback room, and then of course they fixed that with an addition. Now they have a third quarterback in the room. This guy's got some pretty good credentials. Northern Arizona transfer quarterback R.J. Martinez is going to be a walk-on at Baylor. 19 games at Northern Arizona, 4,590 yards passing, 30 touchdowns, 10 picks, 64% completion rate. He's also run for a handful of touchdowns, 13 of them, and they need bodies. I don't think this is because he can just walk and chew gum. I think this is because they feel like if they need him and he could also help with their depth, R.J. Martinez now a part of the Baylor quarterback room.
Yeah, very similar to the Luke Anthony move last year. And look, you've got a guy who's played in games. Now, not at the same level as the Big 12, but you're not asking R.J. Martinez to come in and start. You're asking him to come in and be part of your quarterback depth and, see where it goes with him. Clearly, he's got a little bit of potential, and he's put some stats up there. So, again, see what he's got. The quarterback depth chart as it stands right now is Blake Shapen 1, Sawyer Robertson 2, and now R.J. Martinez, steps in there as 3, and that's what they need, especially to get through spring. And, if there will be a scholarship that probably opens up that you would think that if he's truly good enough, then they'll probably throw that to the third quarterback. But yeah, there's it's all fluid right now. I mean, teams can add maybe 40 players in a cycle now.
They went 2 years, Craig, right, without a quarterback in a signing class because of what happened with Novosad, but also they didn't sign a quarterback last year, and then all the defections. They needed I kind of looked at a couple of videos. I like what I saw, but again, I don't know. We'll see that how much he plays, but at least there's another body in the room.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to get too crazy about this, in terms of like, oh, this is fantastic or anything, because, he is jumping up a pretty significant level. But, with the Luke Anthony thing, I mean, that was a needed addition at the time, but did he ever see the field?
No.
I mean, that was just, a need depth-wise, and I think this is primarily what this is, because as we've highlighted, they only had one quarterback up until about a week and a half ago, thanks to some signing day drama. And so then you add Sawyer Robertson, but we know that he's still a pup. He's still, very young in his career. He hasn't seen the full-blown grind year after year of college football just yet, and that's what's good about him, is that he does have multiple years left, and he's your young guy now since you didn't get to sign a young guy. So I think RJ with his experience is kind of somewhere in the middle. Like, I don't think he's your second stringer, like Paul said. I think he's definitely behind your Robertson addition. But the thing is you're about to have spring ball here in probably the next, 5-6 weeks, something along those lines. That'll get started up. And, yeah, you need to have more than, a couple of guys. And I know there's walk-ons as well, but this just makes sense. That's what it does. It makes sense. They needed another quarterback. They needed somebody else to get reps and to, push and practice. And that's what R.J. Martinez will do with his experience. But, yeah, I'd be surprised, and it probably wouldn't be a good thing if he does see action, unless he's either, he's like the most unheralded diamond in the rough ever, and they just landed an absolute jewel out of nowhere, or all hell breaks loose with like injuries, and so you need to have somebody, and so I think he fills some needs for you. But I'm also sitting here wondering, like, post spring ball, be some quarterbacks on the move again.
Absolutely.
And we just talked about Jackson Dart. Like, what are the odds that he's still on Ole Miss's roster post spring with the additions that they just made with Spencer Sanders and Walker Howard? Probably not high odds. So, he's somebody that I think certainly people will watch. There's still names out there. Malik Hornsby's still out there, right?
No, he's at Texas State.
Oh, Texas State. That's right. I just saw his name on the screen and thought that, so he was already taken. So, I don't know who else is out there at this point, but there will be new names that get flooded in there post-spring ball once those competitions shake out. And so maybe Baylor doesn't want to have to continue worrying about this and they've got their need filled, or maybe they still look later on. But either way, this is a good addition numbers-wise for them.
By the way, this guy can throw it around. I saw a note on the forum. He had 70-something attempts in a game when he was at Cedar Ridge, against Cedar Ridge, excuse me. And then as Biscuits and Gravy mentioned, that he might have, I didn't know this, I didn't see this part of it, that he might have, as a starting quarterback, beaten a Pac-12 team. I don't know the name. If you want to put that up there, Biscuits and Gravy, please do. But that's that as well.
Yeah, it might be in Colorado. But Jake, here's the names, and tell me if you've heard of these guys right now that are kind of still out there now that Spencer Sanders is out of the portal. Jake Garcia was at Miami.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, you probably heard because he had.
By the way, it was Arizona that he beat.
Oh, Arizona. Okay. You've probably heard of him through the, his journey through COVID to be able to try to play. He moved to Georgia his senior year so he could play high school football during COVID. So he's transferred out of Miami, hardly played there in 2 years that he was there. JT Shrout, who is at Colorado, is available.
So nobody really.
Yeah, there's nobody. Dylan Hopkins, Zach Rossman. That you never really heard. Sam Heward is probably maybe the most popular
from Washington,
name.
Brock's son. And by the way, Max Olson, normally with us Thursdays, will be with us, huh?
Damon's son.